Delighted to say I'm joined by former Down player, two-time All-Ireland winner, and a list of titles as long as your arm. James McCartan, how are you doing?
Oh, very well. Thanks very much for the invite.
Not at all, not at all. I was just looking through the amount of stuff you won as a player. Two Hogan Cups, All Ireland minor at 16, I believe. Sigerson with Queens, two All Ireland medals, 91 and 94, a couple of Ulster titles as well. It's a fair old haul. Where do you keep them all?
Oh, they're in a box in the house. Look, unfortunately, I had all those medals by the time I was 23 years old, and from 23 to 32, didn't win anything. So, look, all the success came very early, and the latter part of the career now was spent on the losing side most of the time.
And when you were a young guy and your dad had obviously won All Irelands with Down also, did you ever feel that pressure that you need to do something similar? Because the 80s were a bleak enough time for Down football.
Probably not. Look, the 80s were blinking up. My father was actually manager of the team on a couple of separate occasions in the 70s and the 80s, and I sort of spent a lot of time going with him to the county training sessions, and I would have been behind the goals, kicking the balls out to Greg Blaney and Nicky Linden and Brendan Mason, Paddy O'Rourke, and these guys. So I saw the level of the footballer that was in Down, and look, whenever I joined the panel in the 1990s, look, I suppose we didn't expect to be winning the Lions within 18 months, but that's just the way it panned out.
And if we're to jump back before, probably just before you joined the Down panel, 1989, I see your McRory Cup final that you lost, but you scored 3-1 in the final, and Anthony Tohill on the other side giving a great masterclass. Do you ever think back on those sort of games, or what are your memories of them?
Look, that definitely is a game that one that got away for St Coleman's College in Newry. But Adrian McGuckie and the manager of St Pat's Mahara reminded me that the previous year that went to two replays and an extra time that we probably got the rub of the green on that on 1988. So he says they helped each other out. He's probably right. Their goalkeeper was coming out to clear the ball, and I went in to sort of trying to dive to block him, and he pulled the ball back in. And I took the legs out from underneath him. Definite foul. Ball ran loose. The referee didn't blow the whistle, and Tom Fagan kicked the ball into the net. So yes, the 2 years probably evened each other out. But the '89 game was a 4-10 to 4-9. Suppose it was a bit of a classic at the time, and after that, BBC started to televise the McRory Cup final live because of that particular game.
And to you, this probably must have felt like the biggest thing in the world. Like, even if you play in a parish league at under 14, when you're a young lad, you probably think it's massive. But this must have felt huge.
Oh yeah, look, and the rivalry against Mahara and St Coleman's back in those times were massive. It was 3 years in a row they were competing in the McRory Cup finals, and look, they were both seen as strong teams of producing county footballers. So we would go on and play against all the Eamon Burns and all the McGurks, all these boys that went through Mahara, and we would have had a good chunk of St Coleman's lads too. So the rivalry was there for all of the 90s, and then the friendships after that, because we had a bit of a reunion last year, and some of the Derry lads came up to go to the National League game against Down and had a bit of a night out.
And how good was Anthony Tohill even then when he was in school?
Anthony was a colossus, a brute of a man, and only went on to improve. I actually met him. I went to Australia in 1990 with the Compromise Rules team, and Anthony was over there trialling over there, so he had a bit of a sabbatical before he came back into inter-county football. He obviously was pivotal for them winning the All-Ireland in 1993. We actually saw the replay of our 94 game with them at the weekend, and look, he was just a huge man with skill to burn. A man 6'3" or 4" hitting the free kicks as well. It tells you it all.
And did you enjoy watching back that game, the 1994 game against Derry? You got a great goal that did, or point that did the rounds on social media, so I'm sure it brought back good memories.
Yeah, look, it was watching it was strange because I was watching it all tensed up with my three kids and wife beside me. The three kids had no interest in it at all. I had to banish them to the other room to try and get a bit of peace and quiet to watch the game. And to be honest, I was watching it as if it was live, and as if I didn't know who was going to win it. It was all tensed up, but look, it was a great game at that time. Plenty of people, maybe your age, probably look back at it and say, Jesus, look at the amount of balls that were kicked away. But that was the way it was back then. You had to go and fight for your own ball, scrap for your own ball, and a lot of times the ball was coming out of the sky, and the first option was to get the ball forward, not to look sideways like it is now.
And I suppose your name is Wee James, I suppose. So when you think back, look at the football now, do you think you'd be even more, like obviously you were a very good player, won 2 All-Stars, man of the match and All-Ireland final, but do you think you'd even be more suited to football these days?
I really don't know. You'd have to try and reinvent yourself in some way, because being a corner forward in these days could mean, or half, it could mean that you could have a man beside you and 2 men in front of you, and how do you combat that? So look, you'd like to think that you would find a way. I suppose if I was asked what position I would like to play in the modern game, it's probably wing half back, because the wing half forwards are normally dropping off the wing half backs, and they're getting free ball and a chance to figure out how to break down a blanket defence, but you're stuck in the middle of it. It's very difficult.
And so if we can talk about your down career and when you first got called up, do you remember, was it a phone call back then, a letter, how did it work?
Well, I presume I'd say I got a phone call. Another wee man, Pete, but I would have had been in St. Coleman's College for 7 years, and he was a teacher there, so we knew him very well. So look, I was actually called into the panel, the year before Pete took over, that's right, in 89, Jackie McManus. So I was already there. So but then Pete arrived and took me back in again. So look, at a long-standing relationship with him, and with a lot of success together.
Because I was looking at an interview with Ross Carr, and he was asked about the types of characters that you had, and he goes, once Peter, John and Barney in the management team got them together, the players nearly ruled the changing room. Does that sound about right?
Well, look, we had strong characters in the dressing room. Sometimes, when Pete and Barney and John give their team talks, sometimes the door was closed, and we had a second meeting with DJ or Paddy O'Rourke and Ross and Greg, and I'm not saying it would have been completely different from what was said by the management, but certainly there were strong voices in the dressing room, and look, we took our guidance from the management, but at the end of the day, we were the 15 or 24 being used going out onto the pitch, so they like to make their points too.
And who would have been Paddy O'Rourke was obviously the captain, but who were the real leaders in that dressing room, and what, did you have funny characters, did you have just very strong serious characters? What was it like?
Well, look, the leaders obviously would have been Paddy, the DJ, Ross, Greg, but yeah, with Paul Higgins, who's a joker in the pack, Neil Collins. Look, to be honest, every one of them were strong characters, very, very strong characters, and they were big characters. They were big physical men. A lot of them were playing middle of the field for their clubs. It's a long time from the down team had a physically big team, but we were big back then. That stood by us whenever we had to go out against the likes of Meath and Dublin.
Did it take you a while to settle in as the youngster?
To be honest, probably not. I probably struggled in the first year in 1990. First make appearance, I actually got an All-Star, and we down played in the National League final of that year. And then I was picked to travel to Australia with Ireland. In the second year in 91, to be honest, I felt I struggled. Maybe the second season syndrome or whatever, that you're more of a marked man. Everybody knew more about you, and I felt that part of the year I was struggling for performances. I thought it was probably poor in the first round of the championship, okay in the second. I thought I had a decent Ulster final, but it was poor in the Ireland semi-final. So look, I had a decent game in the final, but to be honest, I was due it, and I owed the boys one.
So that 1991 season, again, just to refer to a Ross Carr interview, he goes, I hadn't been playing well personally and hadn't gone back to group training for the National League. The team ticked over during the league, and then maybe 8 weeks before the championship, I remember the turnout for training was less than positive. I remember rejoining the panel, and I have to say, at that stage as a player, I would never have thought we were going to have a championship campaign with the goal of winning an All-Ireland. What are your thoughts?
Well, yeah, I have to concur with that. There was a training session held in Rostrevor in the park, heading up the mountain, Pete's legendary mountain runs, and there was 8 of us doing it. So 8 out of a panel of 30-something wasn't a good reflection. Now, obviously, you'd have a few injuries in there, but you'd like to have had more than 8 players doing it. So look, from small acorns, big trees.
Yeah. So, but why was that the case? Why was, because you look back now and you think Pete McGrath, great manager, everyone would have massive respects, would show up for him, would die with their boots on, etc. What was going on?
I don't know. I remember going down to play friendly against Kildare a few weeks before the start of the championship, and we couldn't get 15 players. And we had to get 2 men on the Sunday morning gathered up. Hope they'll and they weren't regulars for their club. So we gathered up a team and we went down and we played Kildare. I can't remember how the match kept, but look, we weren't in a great place. There's no point in saying anything different, but momentum is a wonderful thing, and we fell over the line against Armagh and Newry. Terrible game by all accounts, but then things started to gather momentum. A game against Derry that needed a replay to get over them. A massive kick by Ross Carr to keep us in the game and to get a replay for us. We probably played a wee bit of a strange one in that the replay was supposed to be 7 days later, and Greg Blaney had been sent off, so that would have meant Greg would have been suspended because he automatically get 2 weeks back then. We quickly got Greg brought back into the Down hurling camp, and they had a game the following week, so that week the football game had to be rescheduled. So we put it back another week, and we got Greg back. So a wee bit of shenanigans there to get Greg Linney on the field for the replay.
Did he hurl at all? Like was this a bit of a?
Oh yes, good hurler. He was a good hurler, an excellent hurler. He did represent Down, but he wasn't on the panel that year up until that day.
So like there must. Do you remember that plan being concocted?
I remember after the game, yes, it was. I can't remember who came up with the idea, but I remember I couldn't believe I got away with it, to tell you the truth.
God almighty, I'd say that people wouldn't get away with that now, but we all know what happened with a certain Cavan footballer not too many years ago, so it does still happen.
Yeah.
And then to actually win that Ulster title, your first Ulster senior title, I mean, what did that feel like? And they've been as rare as hen's teeth since, so it's obviously a huge thing for you.
Look, we played Donegal in a very warm day in Clonus. Donegal were the existing Ulster champions. We're going in strong favourites. So, and look, to be honest, we probably had I'm going to say a comfortable win, but because we're going into the last 10 minutes, we're winning by a few. But look, it was a marvellous experience. At that stage of my career, I thought that we were invincible. I had got an All-Star the previous year. I'd got my first Ulster title. We were going to Croke Park and I represented the country. I just thought this is where it was going to be like all the time. But unfortunately, success ran out after a while.
Yeah, and then you jump onto that All-Ireland semi-final in 91 against the Kerry team that had lads who had been legends for 15 years. But maybe they were coming to the end. Jack O'Shea had been on the road a long time, Thomas Billan, Pat Spillane, Ambrose O'Donovan. So did you come in thinking these lads can't keep going forever, they're there to be got at?
Look, we probably weren't looking at individuals, to be honest. Like, obviously, we knew they were around. I'd been on that trip to Australia with Jacko. I'd roomed with Jacko, so and I sort of a friend of his, and we were communicating regularly. But look, it certainly was a great thrill to get onto the field with guys that you were heroes of your own, and Jacko and Spillane, these guys, as you said, have been around a long time, but we didn't have any fear of them, and I don't mean that in an arrogant way, and that we were coming in arrogant. We just felt confident. We played to our ability. The momentum was there. That we all felt comfortable. A lot of the boys would have played in Croke Park at various levels, at minor, under 21. Playing against Meath in the National League final at 1990 was key as well for giving us a bit of belief, and again, it was a game that we felt we could have won against Meath. So we knew that, and Down were playing regularly in Division 1 back then, underachieving in the Ulster Championship in the 80s, but they were always usually favourites because they were playing in Division 1 year in, year out. So the guys, but I think you also look around at the universities in Belfast were coming strong back then. Jordanstown and Queen's. The Queen's won their Sigerson in 1990. There's boys that played that. So I always found that if the universities in Belfast were going well, it was going to be a sign that something was going to happen for some of the teams. Like when Armagh won in 02, they had a massive representation that went through both the universities and Queen's. So that was another sign that the tide was turning. And these guys were going out and they were winning Sigersons and playing against all these inter-county players, and they knew that they were as good as them. And henceforth, whenever Down won the All-Ireland in 91, the guys up in Derry and Donegal were going to university, these boys, they said, James McCartan's no better than me, DJ Kane's no better. Enda Gormley was rooming the Derry football, was friends with DJ Kane. He goes, well, if he can get one, I can get one. And it just started a wee revolution in Ulster for those 2 or 3 years. Yeah.
So, but the semi-final, the fact that you beat Kerry by 7 points, did you go into the final thinking, well, if we can beat them, we can turn over a Meath team that had been there year after year during that era?
Look, obviously that was Meath's 10th game. They were legendary status at that stage because of the 10th game that they were in, the saga against Dublin. But again, revert back to playing them in the league and in the National League final the previous year. We took a lot of, the hope from that because we felt that we competed well and it was a game that we could have won, and they're a strong team out. So look, we went in obviously again underdogs, but look, and again, I don't want to seem arrogant, but there's a certain level of confidence there that we could go and perform. Whether that was good enough to win, we were probably hanging on at the end. In fairness, some things didn't go their way. Conor O'Rourke didn't start, and heavy knocks to Liam Harnan and Mick Lyons, so probably the injury wise didn't help them. But look, we'll take our wee bit of luck.
Absolutely. You obviously were a young man for both finals in 91 and 94. Did you go in a bit greener into the 91 game? Was there any different of an experience between 91 and 94?
Yeah, in 94 you appreciated it all the more. As I say, whenever success comes so young, you think it's going to come every year. And then the barren years of 92 and 93 and the criticism that the players took. 94, whenever DJ lifted the cup, you just appreciated all the more because you had to work all the harder. We worked hard in 92 and 93, but we were well stuffed by Derry in 93. And you train as hard and you lose championships, and people think you do something different whenever you win them, and it's not really the case. The same management team, the same players, just things go your way. So look, we just felt that in 94, I felt in 94 that we had earned it because we had been 2 years of heavy criticism and we were washed up and all the players were over the hill. A lot of them were supposedly over the hill, but then we just pulled out a big year, which is fantastic.
And that win over Meath, 116 to 114 in 1991, there was a period of play where you outscored them 1-9 to a point. That was kind of like midway through the first half into the second half. Why do you think that you hit such a purple patch? And like you mentioned Meath having 10 games that year, do you believe that a team can sort of run out of juice if they're playing that many games?
Well, they certainly didn't, because they finished our games. There was a 15-20 minute period, yes, that it was dream football, and if I could figure out how to reproduce that again, we would have done it several times over. So I have no idea, but everything we touched went over the bar. I stuck one over with my left foot, and my left foot is for standing on, and so that tells you all things were going our way. The goal, Barry brings goal, we just got a bit of momentum. But then the tide turned and they came strong. Colin O'Rourke came off the bench and started to make a bit of difference. And Bernard Flynn was fantastic in the last 15 minutes, just economic, sticking the ball over the bar at every opportunity. And just probably the last couple of scores, we kept the scoreboard ticking. The last couple of points, Gary Mason, Greg Lynn and Gary Mason, I think, stuck over 2 points straight on, which it was enough to edge us in front. We didn't all revert back behind the ball whenever the pressure was on. We still nicked 2 points on the break. We also had chances for goals. Like Mickey Linden had a chance for a goal that if that went in, we would probably won convincingly. But look, full credit to me, they kept going to the end, and Neil Collins pulled off a terrific save that probably kept us in the line.
And what was your relationship on the field like with the likes of Mickey Linden and Greg Blaney?
As I say, those boys were probably, heroes of mine, because as I say, I went to go to the county training with my father, and these boys were the stars of the show. They played in the 1983 National League final. They won the National League in 1983. I had been 12 years of age. These boys would have been playing, so I was jealous of these boys playing in a National League final and wanted to be them. And luckily enough, I got there quickly and they were still around. And obviously, Mickey went on for an age. He was still playing inter-county football at 40 years of age. He's just a freak.
Yeah, and how frightening is his speed?
Mickey's quick, but Mickey's quick, but he's not the quickest man on that squad. Paul Higgins was the quickest man on that squad, but he was a bit too lazy. He didn't show it much. No, Higgins would have been the quickest man on the panel, and Mickey would have been second. So, but it was always a great tussle.
Yeah, and would you have any particular moment from that day in the 91 final that would have stood out? Even before the game, how you felt during the game, any particular moment during the game, or even the celebrations?
Probably strange, the celebrations afterwards, but it was that back in the day when the crowds were allowed onto the field after the match, it's great. But be honest, whenever they're congratulating you, patting you on the back, whenever you're getting 100 pats on the back at the one time, it's pretty sore. So I couldn't actually get up the steps to where the presentation was. And I swapped my jersey with Tommy Dowd, and I just went underneath the stand of the Hogan stand to try and make my way round to the dressing rooms again. So I didn't see the presentation, and most of the people, because I was wearing Tommy Dowd's jersey, thought I was Tommy Dowd, and they were saying hard luck to me. And so I got round to the dressing room good enough because they thought I was a loser at that stage. So it was a strange just walking, making that serene walk round after winning All Ireland, and everybody sort of saying hard luck to you,
despite the fact that you've been man of the match as well.
Yeah.
How long before you got your hands on the cup?
Oh, probably later on that evening. I'm sure we've got plenty of photographs with it, and got it filled a few times, I'm sure.
And did you get into? How long before you got into the dressing room? What were the scenes like in there?
Oh, it's like 15 or 20 minutes before I got round to the dressing room, and then we were there for an age because the doors were opened and all the press and all were in, so there's been interviews were going on for a long time. So to be honest, the boys were making their way to the bus in dribs and drabs because everybody, Paddy O'Rourke and Mickey and himself a bit were all getting held back for interviews and things like that. There was no drug testing back then to worry about getting held back for an hour,
Yeah, and sadly, a couple of members of the panel are no longer with us. Ambrose Rogers passed away in '99, and Eamon Burns last year as well, which is obviously very sad, but great memories with them.
Look, we had great times. Those boys, there's a great bond, and losing both those men would be very, very upsetting for a lot of members of our panel. A lot of them would have come up together, played universities football together, and they travelled together in cars to training, to matches. There was back then buses. A lot of times we would have travelled in cars to matches, National League matches, etc. And those boys would have had a strong bond. Eamon and Ambrose are a huge miss to our group.
And then when you jump on to 1994, like you said, you'd had an awful lot of criticism. How personal was it? How much did it bother you?
Look, everybody likes to pretend that they're not bothered by what other people say, but you might try not to read papers, but it seeps in, and somebody tells you what they've read, and what do you think is your man saying that about you? And look, it's not nice. You try and steel yourself for it, but behind some of the criticism, some of it's truth, and you have to accept that too, and and just try and get back and work hard and see if you can try and turn the corner.
And how were you playing at the time?
The start of in '92, I think I maybe won a second Sigerson, but certainly the start of the year in 1994, I felt I was playing very poorly, and I actually took a break from the panel at one stage because there was a few reasons, but playing badly was certainly one of them.
And you were very young at that stage, 23, and taking time away from the panel?
Well, as I say, I would probably had non-stop football, from the late 80s, from McRory to minor, for down, Sigersons and Ulster, and even the Ireland thing. And I, foolishly looking back now, probably tried to attend every session and didn't want to let anybody down. And I look back on that now, and there was certainly an element of burnout involved in it, because it was a 7-day a week. There was no rest days. Whenever you were trying to play for so many different teams, and it was just proving difficult. I remember at one stage I was playing, Queen's Freshers, Queen's Sigerson. You were playing down minors, down under 21s, and just a lot of overlap teams, and you were out probably far too much. And if I was to do it again, I would probably try and look after myself a bit better, as regards the amount of sessions you were fulfilling.
And obviously that's physically very tough, but was it as much you were just sick of the sight of a football and showing up for this all the time?
Well, just the performances weren't there. You were going out and playing, and you weren't playing. You weren't helping the team, and luckily, as it proved, the breakaway certainly was refreshing, and hopefully the proof of the pudding of the decision being right was the fact that you were able to, like against Derry and Celtic Park, go out and have a decent performance, and then go on and win a second All Ireland.
Yeah. At what point did you realise that second All Ireland was possible?
As soon as the final whistle went against Derry, we knew that if we didn't win the All Ireland that year, we would be deemed, the criticism would come again, because we set ourselves up to beat the All Ireland champions, supposedly the best team in Ireland, and we put ourselves in pole position. We knew that if we didn't win the All Ireland, it was failure. So strictly after that point, we knew that we had to go and try and get back to Croke Park.
Yeah, and when you got there, was there big expectation going into that final? As in, within the county, did everyone just assume you were going to win it?
Yeah, that was the strangest thing. Going into an Ireland final going into an Ireland semi-final against Cork, and who had been going hammer and tongs with Meath for a few years prior to that, and I'm not sure if we were favourites in the bookies, but we were certainly favourites in the people in Down's heads. They expected to win. And again, in the final in Dublin, they expected to beat Dublin, and if we hadn't have done that, that would have been a complete failure. And again, we probably fell over the line to a certain extent too. Neil Collins pulled off a save from a penalty, and then DJ got his toe to the rebound and managed to get the ball wide. So again, probably hanging on in a second of Ireland again.
Yeah, what a feeling to score a goal in the final. Was it Mickey Linden who gave it to you? He probably could have taken it himself.
Yeah, Mickey didn't give it to me, but I missed that one. People say, why did he pass it? Well, it probably was the right thing to do, but of course, so if he had a shot himself and put it in the net, nobody would have complained. But look, he drew the keeper, John O'Leary, and he flicked it over to me, so it couldn't be missed.
Yeah. And again, was that as sweet or sweeter than the first one?
As I say, sweeter because we just had the two barren years previous to it, and we had just seemed as if it was never going to happen again. And come the end of '93 and then '94, look, as I say, the criticism was all there at the start of the year, but was banished after the Derry game, and luckily we delivered all the way to Croke.
Yeah, and how much do you think? And I know you've talked about it already there, but was there a big thing about you winning the first one opened the door for the other teams? And as soon as one Ulster team got through to the All Ireland series, were you cheering for each other because it was good to see Ulster teams winning the All Ireland?
Yeah, look, it would be tradition enough up here in Ulster that whatever Ulster teams playing in the minor game or vice versa in the senior game, they would get full support. Look, as I say, I alluded to it earlier, like once Down won the Ireland in '91, the Derry boys were looking enviously over and saying, there's no way we can't do what they did. They're no better than us. They were in class, they were rivals in schools together and universities, they were friends and pals living together. And so Derry knew they were capable of it, and probably Donegal nipped in front of them in '92, and Derry got theirs in '93. So look, by the time '94 came, everybody, in '91 they were delighted to see Down, in '92 they were delighted to see Donegal, and delighted to see Derry. By the time Down came back in '94, they were sick to the sight of the Northern boys, and they wanted Dublin to win the Ireland.
Did you who were your fiercest rivals throughout your career? So you obviously played for, what was it, something like 13 years you played for Down, maybe slightly longer. Who would have been the rivals that you would have enjoyed beating the most?
Oh, enjoyed beating the most? Probably, look, I only got to Croke Park twice, '91 and '94. It's not like now when you back doors and games in Croke Park. So the rivalry against the teams further down the country, probably we didn't play them regularly enough in championship football. So it was probably the northern guys, the Derrys and the Tyrones and the Armaghs. And Kieran McKeever from Derry was always an opponent that I found hard fight. Evan from Tyrone, and I suppose there'd be Paul Donnelly. I'll mention him from Tyrone too. Had a very tough Ulster final against Paul in '94. So probably those Derry and Tyrone would be two of the games that usually were always going to be blood and guts.
Absolutely. And the latter end of your career, I mean, you said it yourself, you had it all won by 23. Was there a lot of frustration for you personally as you just struggled to get back to that level? Yeah. Look,
it was. We played in an odd 2 or 3 Ulster finals, but look, we were hammered in a couple of them, and it was completely different teams, and there was maybe only 2 or 3 of us left. And in '03, we probably, whenever Tyrone Tyrone won the Ireland. Like, we took them to a replay in Ulster. Now we were 9 points up in the first game, and we got a man, Big Gregory, got sent off, and then they came back and got a draw, and they annihilated us embarrassingly in the replay. So look, if you were asking me, was there another one that we could have won? I probably felt in '96. I think we were beaten in the Ulster final by Tyrone again, and Tyrone were probably. It was a controversial enough Full Ireland semi-final against Meath, when Meath sort of tramped into them a wee bit, and then were very physical, and there was a few serious injuries. And look, we were probably a physically bigger team than Tyrone back then, and I don't think that that would have happened to us. But look, they beat us on the day, and that's all.
So when you jump onto the fact that you ended up becoming manager of Down, you started off with clubs like Burren, obviously, in Down, St. Gall's and Antrim, and you had a spell with Ballinderry as well. To you, were you always building towards taking over Down?
No, not at all. No, I was talked into. It was 1 year, I think it was the year 2000. Pete McGrath left me out of the Down senior panel, and I'd been asked for 3 or 4 years to get involved with Queen's Freshers, and I'd always declined, using the excuse that I was playing inter-county football, didn't have the time. So whenever I wasn't in the panel, I couldn't use that excuse. So I ended up getting involved with Queen's Freshers. We won the All-Ireland that year, and then the year we ended up playing in 4 Sigerson finals in a row before eventually winning one against Jordanstown. So look, it started off in the university really, so without any real desire to get involved with county or anything like that. Then my own club Burn stepped in and wanted me to get involved, so it was an easy one too, because obviously it's my own club. So look, the other ones, Ballinderry and St. Gall's, were good experiences, but probably didn't know the players as well. So probably when I came back to Down, I probably felt that I knew more about those players. Some of them were still there that I played with, so I felt I knew what they were capable of. I felt I knew what their best positions were, and I always felt that Down had good forwards, and if we could get our defensive structure sorted out, I always felt that we could go out and we always were able to score. Probably lucky in the fact for me is that our injury wise, with no real serious injuries apart from Ambrose going into the final, which is a big miss, but with Marty Clarke back from Australia, which is a massive plus. So look, the year went well, culminating in an All-Ireland final appearance, but unfortunately we didn't get over the line.
And when I was just looking back over news reports, you were appointed ahead of Pete McGrath. Was that an unusual situation, since he had been your manager and he'd left you out?
Yeah, look, again, it was a strange one, because I was asked to go forward for the post, and obviously Pete, hearing that Pete was in for it, you wondered whether you should step aside and let him have a go, but let him have his go. But look, I said, look, leave it to the people to decide. The board, or the team that was picked to pick the manager, and leave it up to them. You went in and you spoke to them and you laid out what you thought what you were capable of doing. And I certainly did not tell them we were capable of winning Ireland or getting the Ireland final. But look, I got the nod and a very close decision. So look, but I have to say that Peter's only wished me well ever since.
Yeah, and obviously that great history of beating Kerry, and you'd done so in 1991. Were you confident enough going into that game? My memory was Paul Galvin was suspended, maybe Tomas O'Shea was also injured, so there was possibly a couple of boosts for you.
Yeah, I think they were both suspended. And look, going into the game, I remember whenever the draw came out, I think we only had 6 days to prepare for the game, so there wasn't much time. The draw was made on a Sunday and we were playing the Saturday or something like that. And everybody was, oh my God, we're playing Tyrone, that's us out. And then we took it from a slightly different angle. Look, we've got nothing to lose. We'll go out here, we'll play football, we'll see where it takes us. Whenever I was sitting down to do my defensive matchups on their offensive players, I started to realise, normally when you get 3 or 4 matchups, to start running out of matchups between 4, 5 and 6. But I was getting to matchup 5 and still was happy and couldn't believe it that matchup 6 still worked for me. So I says, hold on here, this could actually work. And look, we went out, obviously, we got a good start. I think we went 1-2 or 1-3 to no score up, and that gave us a lot of belief. We probably try to close them down from the front that are full forward. A lot of our scores, that first 1-2, 1-3, came from us taking the ball off, our forwards taking the ball off them. And so we tried to attack them in their full back line, which probably is a bit unusual in this day and age. Our first line of defence was our full forward line, instead of your first line of defence is when everybody drops back to your half back line. So again, it's probably before Jimmy McGuinness got his hands on Gaelic football and changed the whole thing. But look, it was a fantastic day for us, a fantastic spectacle, and look, to get away with keeping the record intact of never losing to Kerry, I was delighted with that one. Unfortunately, I messed up the other record in the final.
Being hard on yourself there. Was it unusual managing a team with your brother Dan in it? Now, he's obviously several years younger than you and probably would have deferred to you as a young guy when he was a young guy anyway. But was it strange at all?
Yeah, look, it was strange in that you've always been accused of favoritism and that he's not good enough and that he shouldn't be there and all that. He's only getting in and all that type of talk. But I always felt there was a type of player that he could do a job on, and I always felt that he always did that job. You didn't put him on the speedy fella, you put him on a strong, Colin McFadden and these guys that are big and strong, maybe not dancing about the place as much. And I felt that over the years he didn't let us. I dropped him twice. And the twice that I dropped him, I got phone calls from the management team the next week from Aidan O'Rourke from Armagh in one of them and Brian McGyver in the other one, and they told me that I got it wrong, that I was too hard on him because he was my brother. And I sort of had to think long and hard about that, and so I had to accept that. So I think he probably got the rough end of the stick sometimes, that he was dropped in big games because I maybe was letting the wee people who were seeping into my head, and I was listening to that. So look, he might have got the rough end of the stick on a couple of occasions.
All right, and I presume your relationship with your brother when you're managing him is different to any other player because you know each other, and there's 30 years of relationship in there as well. Would he have ever railed against you for dropping him, or would he take it on the chin?
No. I remember. No, this wasn't in the kind. This was in the. I also had McQueen's. So when he was captain of the Sigerson winning team, joint captain on Kevin McGordy and Jared O'Kane from Derry. So look, but I did work a couple of moves through him one time. I took him into the dressing room. He was marking Paddy Bradley. He was doing okay in Paddy Bradley, but I whispered in his ear, "I'm going to tear strips off you in this dressing room. You keep your mouth shut and take it." So I went in and I got stuck into him, and all the rest of the boys, sat up and sort of paid attention when they saw me turn strips off Daniel, not realising that I had worked a wee movie number with him before going in, because he was doing fine in Paddy Bradley, but I just wanted to get riled up and into somebody and show the boys that if he can take it, they'll have to take it.
So, getting Marty Clarke back, if he's been playing for Down for 15 years, how good do you think he could have been?
Look, Marty was a very talented footballer, and if Down had had him for 15 years, that would absolutely fantastic. Obviously, he went to Australia to fulfill a dream, and rightly so. He probably came back a different player than he left. I felt anyway. Probably before he left, he would have been getting the ball and attacking players. Now, obviously, he was a very gifted left foot as well. I felt when he came back, he was going into Australian rules, evasive. Don't get caught, because obviously you can get. So look, try to work with him on that. Look, he made a huge difference for us. He also took the emphasis off Mark Poland, and that Marty was getting all the headlines, and rightly so, because he was putting in man of the match performances. But Mark Poland was beavering a wee way on the inside too, at centre half forward, and making a big difference. So I felt Marty was twofold. His performances in himself, and he also took the heat off a lot of the other forwards, because he was dealing with all the media attention, and all the opposition teams were focusing on Marty.
Yeah, the way he kicked the ball around, it was a bit like watching Kieran MacDonald of Mayo.
Look, the sweetest left foot as you could ever see, and look, even at 16 years of age, his ability to strike a ball was second to none. Huge loss to Down football when he went to Australia. Huge loss whenever he came back and wasn't well enough through illness to represent it. I actually would have loved to come back and played in goals for Down, because I felt that his kick out, would have been fantastic. And I thought, and believe it or not, I've seen him mess about in goals, and he could have played goals for Down, in my opinion. And obviously, the way the kick-out strategies have gone in recent years, he would have been a big addition in goals.
Can I draw you back to the final moments of that semi-final against Kildare, when Robert Kelly is lining up that free? Do you see any chance of this guy actually burying it? Because it would be so unusual, and I know Michael Meehan did it for Galway against Cork a couple of years after that, but it would have been so unusual for that to go in.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Look, the free kick was actually awarded about 30 yards out. How he managed to get kicking it at the 14, I will never know. He did get an exhibition in yard stealing, and obviously I don't blame him for that. But I think in that particular game, we were lucky to get a fortuitous goal in the first half from Benny Coulter back when we weren't allowed to compete with the goalkeeper, and it was certainly a square ball and shouldn't have been allowed, and that probably kick-started us in the first half. But I remember at the time Pat McEnany looking up at the screen and seeing that he'd made a mistake, and knowing that the goal shouldn't have stood, but he'd awarded it. And then we felt after that we found it very hard to get frees. Pat was trying to even the whole thing up, and I can understand that, subconsciously trying to. So there was a few of the frees in the last few minutes I thought were questionable. But yes, look, Callum King getting his fingertips to that was an unbelievable sight, and just to get the ball hacked away, the euphoria of just knowing you were in an Ireland final was unreal.
And before jumping on to the final, what were the characters like in that dressing room? You've already talked about your own team when you were as a player, but as a manager, is there anything that you would have seen in your own dressing room that Pete McGrath was running that you tried to replicate here, or were they different types of players and they just did their own thing?
Pete would be completely different to the way Pete was a one-man band. He could do it all. He liked to do the training. He liked to do the team talks. He liked to. Well, I probably felt that I was weak in some areas, and I would surround myself with Brian McGyver, Paddy Talley over the years, Aidan O'Rourke. These guys, Niall Moyna, people who are bringing a vast wealth of experience, and to me, there's no point in having these men in if they weren't allowed to have their say. So certainly the setups I would have been different to Pete, and that Pete was capable of covering all the bases. Well, I tried to say, well, no, I'm going to get somebody who's better than me. And I actually jokingly would have said, if I have everybody in the right place, I don't need to be there.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, they often say that it's about delegation too.
Yes.
But so when you're coming into the final, your first season, you're taken down into an All-Ireland final, and you're 39 years of age, something like that. It must have felt like everything your touch was turning to gold at this point. Did you feel like you couldn't, I don't know, coming into that final, did you think, I have the lads where I want them and we're in a right good spot, and this Cork team is probably not at the level they were in the years beforehand?
Look, if we probably, I mentioned earlier that we probably were lucky through injuries. Well, looking back and reflecting that statement again, obviously Ambrose Rogers, the size of that Cork team was just unreal. The amount of men, I go back, I talked about the Down team in the early 90s, but the size of that Cork team was huge. And again, we had gone from being big teams down to smaller teams. Now, I didn't mind back in the wee small Down team, we'd done all right. But certainly those guys were huge. We missed Ambrose Rogers, obviously, in the semi-final, the final, and a couple of guys out with long-term injuries that would have made a difference. Liam Doyle and Owen McCartan, big men too, which would have made a huge difference. I probably missed a trick around the middle of the field. I think they made 2 changes at midfield at half-time. I think it was 2, I'm not sure. And I probably should have done something around the middle of the field to try and counteract that, because they were bringing on fresh men at half-time and our lads were playing 70 minutes and these lads were only playing 35. So look, I've been criticised several places about the substitutions that were made in the final, obviously when you lose, but probably midfield would be the area if I had to go back and do it all again. I would look at that.
And if I remember correctly, were you 3 points ahead at half-time? You probably thought we're in a good spot here.
Yeah, at one stage we were 9-4 up, and then the last 2 scores before half time were for Cork, did a free kick outside the scoring zone, and for some reason it was moved up inside the scoring zone, and Donegal O'Connor came out to hit it. And up until that point, I felt that Dan Gordon had coped extremely well on him. Donegal stuck that ball over the bar, and you can see him fist pumping, and it really got him going. And he got another one over the bar from play just prior to half time. So instead of going in 5 up, went in 3 up, and then after half time, Cork certainly, looked as if they were going to steamroll us at one stage, and we did very well to turn the tide again. If we were living on scraps, they had something like 60 odd% of the ball in the kickouts, and we were very economical up front. We again didn't kick too many wides, but we probably had a chance or two to, and I'm going to say steal it, but Cork were worthy winners in the end.
You mentioned the midfield and the switches that you look back on now. Is that the only thing that you reflect on and think, I might have done that differently? Do you think otherwise you'd probably do the same thing?
Yeah, well, that's the one area that people would have talked about. One that would have been cast up me several times, Paul McComiskey coming off and bringing on, I think, Ronnie Murder or somebody like that. And Ronnie had come on in the previous 3 games and got us 2 or 3 or 4 points in the last 10 minutes of games. So look, that was probably always a substitution that was going to come on. Obviously, Paul was having a good game as well. So look, you're damned to your do, you're damned to your don't. Sometimes if you'd have won the game to that point, there wouldn't have been a word of it. But we lost, so everybody scrutinises all the wee moves.
Yeah. And was it tough to take in the aftermath? And I mean, just obviously before you even talk about criticism you might get, was it just a really heavy blow after the season you'd had?
Yeah, look, obviously it's a wonderful experience to get to the Ireland final. Would never swap it, but I'm now the only down manager to lose one at senior level, so I'm now carrying. I've lost that record for the county, and I know some of those things aren't really that important, but still it would have been nice to never lost to Kerry and never lost an Ireland final. It would have been some year.
Yeah, this obviously doesn't amount to a hill of beans, but it was a very unusual sight seeing the 2 away jerseys, the white jersey and the yellow jersey with maybe had black sleeves or something. It looked a little bit odd, didn't it?
Yeah, there's no doubt. But look, another thing I think that was the first year that the crowd weren't allowed onto the pitch after the final, so it was so the players didn't really know what to do after the game was over, and I sort of gathered them up, and Benny was lying down, Benny Coulter was lying on the ground, and I said, "Get up there, man, right? We better go around and thank these supporters. They've given us a hell of a ride here." So that was the first sort of obviously it wasn't a lap of honour for us, but it was the first time you had the opportunity to walk around the pitch and see the supporters and shake a few of their hands and thank them for their support throughout the year, and then to thank you as well. So look, it was the first time that had ever happened, so it's a strange feeling just to experience that.
You said after the game, we want to return to Croke Park on future occasions. We don't want to be one-year wonders. Why do you think it didn't quite happen again and you never got back as far? Because even like you met Cork the next year and it was a heavy loss.
Yeah, look, we did have we had a lot of days out in Croke Park between National League and league finals, and if you're not winning trophies and cups, if you were to sort of measure your gauge by visits to Croke Park, we did have a few more, but look, a lot of them were tough. We were well beaten in a few of them. Look, a lot of the players never got all of them back on the field again. Would have lost Damien Rafferty, cornerback. Danny Hughes, lost him through injury. Marty Clarke went back to Australia. There was just never managed to get all those boys back on the field again. There's other boys came in and proved their worth too. But look, I felt that every year was the squad was actually getting slightly weaker because somebody was lost to whatever reason. So by the time year 5 came now, I felt that even though we weren't year 3 and 4, even though we weren't getting to maybe the likes of Croke Park, I felt the lads were actually performing as close to their max as they were whenever we were appearing in the Ireland final. Unfortunately, max was never going to be good enough to get us to an All-Ireland final with just where we were at, but you can only go out and produce your best. And I felt that we did have some great performances in 012 with a humdinger of a semi-final in Ulster with Monaghan. I think we were 9 points down in the first half and came back and turned that one around. So look, we had some. I think we could be the only team that actually beat the 6-day turnaround for the back door, because most the other team that it was done, they got an extra day, 7 days. So 6-day turnaround was always a nasty one, and we managed to do that. The problem is that 6 days later again we had Mayo waiting, so with 2 6-day turnarounds. So and they give us a bit of a lesson too. So look, with some chastening times, but I suppose we prefer to remember the good times of 010.
Yeah, because I'd imagine for you, knowing the quality that was in that team, when you had everyone more or less, other than Ambrose really, for the latter part of 2010, was it a source of frustration for you as you were going into year 3, 4 and 5, when you're possibly even looking back thinking 2010 was the chance, the golden window when we had everyone?
Yeah, look, and 010 was the year, and again, the Cork they were probably on the wane, and that they deserved to win the All-Ireland. There's no doubt about that. But there probably was better Cork teams in previous years that hadn't got over the line. So they were there for the taking, and we weren't good enough to do it ultimately. But as I say, I'd like to think we brought a brand of football to Croke Park that people enjoyed watching, and there wasn't so much of the defensive stuff. And you tried to go out, and I suppose we were lucky. A lot of our best players were in the forward line, so why would you bring them back in front of your goals? So we tried to play that way. And look, the President G at the time thanked me later on an All-Star trip just for the colour and the brand of football that we brought to Croke Park. He says it just changed the year and the dynamic of the. I'm not going to say they were sick of the usual suspects, but no, it was just something different about the surprise element, the colour, the red and the black. In Croke Park in the Ireland semi-final against Kildare, the contrast of the colours and the seating up in the stands, seeing the red against the white of Kildare, I just thought was just a wonderful sight on a wonderful day, and again another excellent game.
Because of Down's tradition of playing nice football, did you feel a pressure when you came in that you'd had to play an expansive game and try and do it what is considered the right way?
No, not at all, no. And again, this was probably before the blanket defences were in anyway. Say Jim didn't get to Donegal till 11. So look, no, a lot of people were playing football that way. Look, we still asked our wing half forwards to work hard and come back and give a bit of help in the defence. But when we won the ball, we wanted to kick the ball as quickly into what we perceived the good forwards that we had: Benny Coulter, Paul McCummins, all these guys up there. Why would you dilly-dally and pass sideways and hold possession? I just think kids are now been programmed to get the ball and just assume that they can't kick it because they assume that there will be a blanket defence. While if you operate quickly enough and look up and move the ball at pace, like you can get there before there's a structure put back. But people are now been programmed, just don't give the ball away, and the first thing they do is look sideways. They don't look up. Now maybe when you look up and you just see what's in front of you, you might decide that you have to move the ball sideways to try and create something, but don't assume that. They're jumping to plan B before checking out plan A, and I just think that at the minute we're all been programmed just hold possession. While if you can get it in quickly, why wouldn't you do it? Especially if Benny Coulter on the edge of the square.
And like you're over the Down minor team again, is that something that you're talking from the experience of these young players that's what you've seen and maybe you're trying to break that?
We get them coming in from schools, and the schools have had them for 3 or 4 months at whatever level they're playing at. And yes, we find that they're programmed just to hold on to the ball, while the first thing we have to do is try and get them, like, okay, it might be the right decision, but look up and see if there's a different decision or a better decision. Just don't. I go to the school matches and I can hear coaches saying, don't kick the ball. And just, to me, it drives me mad. Like, in any particular instance, maybe the right decision will be not to kick the ball, but in Down, let the player make the decision. Don't program him. He's not a robot.
So then you've got Stevie Poacher on board, who I've done a few videos with him recently, and he gets slated a bit for being this defensive type of coach, and I don't know what's he like to deal with, and like he would seem. I suppose if you were to go by what people are saying, him being a defensive coach, he would probably fly in the face of what you're saying about expansive football.
Well, look, we haven't had much opportunity because of the Barris to get stuck into matches with Stevie. We were very limited. But look, Stevie would always maintain that he can only work with what he has, and if he hasn't got good enough, forwards, he'll do a defensive job on it. He would maintain that in Cardiff, of course, that they're their highest scoring team in Division 3 and all this type of stuff. So look, we all know one down that Stevie is an excellent coach, and I just wanted to give him and Down Miners the best opportunity to try and go and prove that. So we have him on board here now. To be honest, I didn't like seeing all the good coaches from Down being in other counties, and Monaghan and Armagh and Carlow, etc. Like we haven't got that many good ones that we're able to farm them out. So look, it's good to get him back on board, and look, he knows what's expected of him, and look, I just wanted to give this minor group the best possible chance that they had, and Stevie was well up on top of the list.
What kind of drew you or attracted you to going back with the Down Miners?
Oh dear, that's a long story. When Paddy O'Rourke asked me to do the Down Miner job, I actually sunk my head in my hands and said, "Oh, I've just got off this. You want me back on it?" I says, and because we knew at the time, he didn't say these words to me, but this is the words that I heard: "James, we need you to take the Down Miner job. There's no chance of you winning anything. We have underinvested in the youth and Down. We haven't done enough with the squads, underage squads, but we need you. Will you come and do it? And your reputation will be in shreds at the end when you take the job." He didn't say that, but that's what I heard. Because it was my own county, I couldn't say no. So look, this was supposed to be my last year, so I'm not sure whether I'm going to get a year out of it at all. So with all this pandemic, but look, we're hoping to get the minor championship played at some stage, but it's not looking too hot at the minute.
And do you have much contact with the players, or are you leaving them be for now?
No, because of they're under 16 or something under 16. No, there's a guy in charge of the WhatsApp group, and he feeds me back. They're just asked to try and stay in contact with them. They're asked to put up their training programs, what they're doing, what times for 5,000 meters, etc. But it's very hard just to try and keep the enthusiasm open whenever they don't get to see anything, and not knowing if there's going to be anything at the end. So they're trying to keep the enthusiasm going in the group, but it's not easy.
And do you think that the future can be bright again for Down football, that you can be competing to bridge that gap to 1994 for at least an Ulster title? Because with the quality of footballers you've produced time and time again, it is so unusual that you haven't won any championship silverware.
Yeah, look, that has to be the aim. Absolutely. We still keep needing to invest in our underage and turn up good quality players. Look, it takes a bit of a luck, but 1994 is a long time, and that shouldn't be in a county like Down. We're all trying hard to try and turn the tide. Finances are always a problem, and as they are in every county, but the other counties seem to be further ahead. Sponsorship, the Dublins, and even the Tyrones and Club Tyrone and Donegal, and we always seem to be a wee bit behind there as regards finances. But look, the players have to step up too. Like back in 91, 94, there was no multi-millionaires back in the Down teams that were winning All-Irelands either. So look, the players have to take some responsibility, but collectively, look, there's movement there of trying to improve things and improve the standard of the footballer. But look, there's no point in telling you different. Winning All-Irelands does seem a long way off, but we have to try and see if we can get some representation in Ulster finals at underage level, try and win an Ulster title at that level, and try and build on that.
And then just a final thing then, you're a quarry manager, which not too many people have that sort of title. What have you been doing with yourself as regards work in the meantime? Because I presume works have stopped there.
Well, look, there was a bit of a skeleton staff in, because we would have been supplying stone to people who were making concrete, who were working in hospitals and stuff. So we would have had a skeleton staff in, but basically we were closed up there for 3 weeks, trying to get back to work this week as safely as possible, because way we see it, this virus isn't going to go away in the next 3 weeks. It's going to be here in 12 months, 24 months, whatever it is. So people are just going to have to figure out how to get back to work as safely as possible, because unless they're going to be, the economy can't last for 12 months without getting back to work. So, and the virus isn't going away. So people are just going to have to keep social distancing and putting all the rules in place that the people in the supermarkets are having to do to go to their work. There's loads of people that are the key workers that are having to go to work and obey the rules. So everybody else is just going to have to get back to work and obey the rules as well.
And then, actually, even what is the average day like working in a quarry? What would one, what would you expect to do in an average day in a quarry?
Well, I work on the contracting end of it, so I work in the sort of bitmac and asphalt and road construction and road resurface, and so I'm involved in basically pricing jobs and trying and win contracts and keep the work. I'm a pen pusher now. I'm behind the table. I wouldn't be out doing any hard labour and anything like that. But look, every couple of weeks there's explosives come into the quarry, and the van has to be guarded by the PSNI, because the record of boys up in the north here would be too good with explosives. They would go missing very quickly and used for something alternative. So, and then the blast goes off, and then you crush the rock and try and set it. It's fairly simple stuff.
Have you ever pumped the dynamite? You know, the whole thing where you shove down the lever and fire in the hole? You're Clint Eastwood stuff back in the 60s. You are. Let me dream a little. James, you've been very good with your time. Really appreciate you joining me, and best of luck, and hope all goes well for you while things are very unusual at the moment, as we know.
Right, no problem at all. Thanks very much.